इस्लाम एट अ ग्लांस इज ब्रॉट टू यू बाय अमेरिका में मुसलमानों की नुमाइंदा तंजीम इस्लामिक सर्कल ऑफ नॉर्थ अमेरिका समाजी शऊर से आगाही हो या इस्लामी तर्ज जिंदगी का दर्स इक्ना ने हमेशा अपना मौसर किरदार अदा किया। कार खैर में हमारा साथ दीजिए। फोन 718-658-1199।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi ahda wassalatu wassalamu man la nabiyya ba'da. The topic of the day is democracy and Islam. Democracy is a concept that was, if we can trace back in the history, that is not something new that many of us think that is the last 200, 300, 400 years that in the Europe they started moving towards this system of democracy, but it was introduced much earlier in Greece actually. And when it was introduced, even at that time, the philosophers and the thinkers of that time, which were very renowned for their statements that they have made and the philosophy that they introduced to the mankind, this even from them there was criticism of this this concept of democracy, and they say that it can lead to corruption. It is not a system which is foolproof. It is not a system through which a nation can be governed without many problems. And the problems arise from the fact that if everybody has the right to change, to bring change in the government, or take part in the decisions, then what happens is that the people who are ruling, they are always manipulated by the desires and the wishes of the common people all around, and that they can be good or they can be bad, but they have to follow that. If they don't, then they will lose their seat in the ruling class. So that criticism was there when it was introduced initially. And today, when we see this overwhelmingly present in the countries of the world, even the countries which are not actually in spirit following this concept, they try to at least fool the people by saying that we are following this, although it happens so that in many countries we see, and unfortunately some of the Muslim countries also, that we see the election results, and then you see 98% vote the president has won and 99% has won. And I have been to such countries, and I have not seen that much support in the people. People used to talk against the government, against the president and all that, but still at the time of election he would win with 98%. That was that is happening around the world as well in the name of democracy. But let's only talk about the places where it is working in at least for the number count. There is no big issue there, but manipulation, which the people in Greece, the scholars and the philosophers and thinkers have earlier pointed out, that this has a flaw in it, that this system can be manipulated. Even it's not only the desires and dreams of common people which may lead the government in a wrong direction, but these common people can be manipulated in a way that the government is either have no other option but to follow what they are saying, or they lose their position. So this is there even today, and it has more and more with the introduction of media and propaganda machinery. The manipulation of the vote or manipulation of the common people has become more easier. These democracies, they do things in the name of lobbying, for example. So the government or the government officials are being manipulated from certain interest groups to and they have to follow them because they have money. They need this money for their propaganda, for their election campaigns and all that. So it is, the whole system got corrupted over the years, and the corruption is spreading more and more. So what is the option for Muslims then? What is in democracy for Muslims? Our topic, it is democracy in Islam. Let's first go back and see what is the relation. The relation, there is a relation. There's no doubt there is a relation, but we call it something else. We call it shura, or consultation, for which we got the instructions from the Quran, and we see in the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ. That is all is expressed over and over again. Amruhum shura bainahum. Their affairs are run through consultations. That is how it is defined, that Muslims should be doing like that. But nobody has to just obey one person in absolutely, that he is not going to make mistakes. But there is a shura, there is a consultation with the people of knowledge around that person who is making decision. This is always encouraged. وَشَاوِرُهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and that is the instruction to Prophet ﷺ, that about Muslims, that involve them in the consultation, even to the Prophet, who is guided by Allah through wahi, because he has to establish an example for the Muslim Ummah. He was told to include the people around you in the consultation. So he was not taking decisions by himself, unless there is an order from Allah that he has to tell them and they will obey. But in other affairs, I'll give you one example. When the kuffar of Makkah, they organized a campaign and they came to attack Medina, which ended up in the Battle of Uhud, which is a big battle in which Muslims have suffered big losses. For that battle, there was a consultation among the Sahaba, and although the Prophet had the idea that we should stay in Medina and defend Medina from inside, but the majority of the people around him, they gave him a mashwara, or a consultation, that we should go out of Medina and engage them in an open area in the place of Uhud. They ended up going there, and they ended up losing the battle with a lot of losses. Over 70 Muslims got shaheed in that battle, and 70 at that time was a big number. It was a small Muslim community. And by the way, in all the wars of Islam during the time of Muhammad, there are a few hundred people got killed, around 500 or so. So it's all those battles. We learn about a lot of ghazawat and battles, but this is how it is. The number says. So 70 people was a big number. They got killed over there. So the point I was trying to make, that Prophet ﷺ, although he was guided by Allah, although he thought that we should stay in Medina, but he followed the decision of the majority of the people around him, and then he went, even though the results were disastrous, but he followed that. So this tells us something, that even Prophet ﷺ used to obey Allah's command, in which he says, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. So in the worldly planning and things, he used to take them their advice. And the same continued with the Khulafa. They always used to bring the more scholarly and more knowledgeable people to close to them. And just on the side, I tell you that in the time of Umar, there was one person who became Muslim little later, but he was of a very high caliber. But Umar did not include him in his consultative assembly, or in his close circle who used to do. And he complained about that. And he said that, why you keep those people close to it? And he said that because they were there at the time of Badr, and you were not there. So this is to share with you something about the status of the people who became Muslims earlier and went through the sufferings and went through all these tough times. So that also a training. So these trained people, there should be some criteria for bringing the nice kind people, scholarly people, pious people who has the worldly knowledge as well, and are really people of integrity to be involved in the highest level of consultation. So as the level rises, the consultative gathering should be of a higher stature in all aspects. So all this about democracy and Islam, that Islam is not something which is against involving people, but what is the limit? The limit is that all the consultation, there can be differences at that time. Maybe the consultation in a bigger way was not possible, and maybe we can do a bigger consultation now with the electronics and with all the communication available and all the elections and all that happens. You can design a system. So there is an opening there, that Islam does not restrict you from going and asking people for their advice. After all, the one who is going to rule them, who is their affairs in his hand, they are going to give. He is like a wakil, or is an attorney of those people. So the people has the choice to choose, should have the choice to choose their attorney. So in that sense, yes, democracy is not in direct conflict with Islam. It can work with Islam, but it has to be Islamized. Islamized means it has to work within the framework, within the four boundaries of Islam. When I say four boundaries, means it should not be against, or it should not be disregarding any ruling, any fundamental rules that Prophet ﷺ has set for this consultation, or for that matter, any ruling of Allah and His Prophet should not be violated through this process. If all the world votes for something which Allah has declared that it is not allowed, it will never be allowed. It doesn't matter whatever, how much democratic process goes against what Allah has defined. So it doesn't work that way. There is something very interesting in the constitutions of some Muslim countries. Especially, I will refer to something which is in the constitution of Pakistan, that is included as a preamble of the constitution, and it is widely known as objective resolution. That objective resolution was presented by the first Prime Minister of Pakistan, Liaquat Ali Khan, and it was adopted, and since then it became part of the constitution. This part is actually Islamizing the whole constitution, Islamizing the whole process of democracy. If we go by the spirit of that declaration, then we can bring up a system, a democracy, if you want to call it by that name, under the guidance that is provided in that preamble. In that, it is said that the people should be ruled by the choice of the people. The rulers should be through the choice of the people, and everything should happen within the rules and fundamentals that are set by Allah and His Prophet. I'm just paraphrasing this article, but this article defines the boundaries. And one of the judges I was told by some scholars when they went and visited Egypt, and one of the judges of their court, they said that this is such a nice statement that this should be made the integral part of the constitution of every Muslim country. So alhamdulillah, some document is there, and it is possible to adopt the democracy. Good things, we are always open. The Muslims should always be open to learn from others and then adopt something, but it has to be in the framework of what Allah and His Rasul have already defined. And it is not something, as I said, new, that in the last 200 or 300 years we have started. This system was there. So the only thing that we have to follow is that the limit of something that you can make a policy or by consultation, or you can go about changing things in your daily routine and life. There's no problem there, and there is a lot of area to do legislations, and there are examples even during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in the times of Khulafa Rashidin, that they did some legislation. They did some tazir, which is called tazir in the terminology of Islam. Through that is according to the need, they introduce a law. So that is quite possible. You can consult and sit together and discuss. There is a particular situation, we need to come up with some decision to deal with that, and that is all available. For example, if the zakat is set to be 2.5%, but there can be some special emergency circumstances when new legislations are required to get some more tax from the people. This can be done through consultative process, and using these assemblies and what have you in the process or in the system of democracy. But this democracy should be governed with the principle of serving the people. Just remember the ayah that you are the people raised for the mankind. So you are for the service of mankind, and these people who came, who were selected or elected to come to this level of consultation for governing a people, they are for the service of the people, and they should do this service according to the norms set by Prophet and Allah. And the humanity will benefit from this kind of setup, because if you are going to try to introduce something from yourself and try to violate certain things, certain principles that are already set, what you will end up is in the multiplicity of systems. So it is quite against what is a concept of globalization that we covered in another episode. But it is going to be a multiplicity of systems and conflict, and the vested interest, they all come into play. But if we all agree to one creator, Wahid, and then through this creator, the system that he has given, everybody bow down to the wisdom of the creator, and then they agree to this system and work on the democratic principles, you can call it consultative principles, on things that are below that, under that. And then guided by those principles, all the affairs of Muslims can be sorted out, and it will be a blessing for the whole society. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين والمؤمنات. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
इस्लाम एट अ ग्लास वॉज ब्रॉट टू यू बाय अमरीका में मुसलमानों की नुमाइंदा तंजीम इस्लामिक सर्कल ऑफ नॉर्थ अमेरिका। समाजी शऊर से आगाही हो या इस्लामी तर्ज जिंदगी का दर्स, इक्ना ने हमेशा अपना मौसर किरदार अदा किया। कार खैर में हमारा साथ दीजिए। फ़ोन 718-658-1199।